Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the second talk as part of the festival organized by Faculty of Architecture at Yaşar University. And in this session, we are really honored to have Dr. Hossein SADRI with us. So before I'll give the floor to Dr. SADRI, I would like to briefly introduce him. The seminar title of Hossein SADRI will be De-Urbanisation, Why and How. And I just want to talk about his biography. As a temporal resident of the planet Earth, Hossein SADRI concerns about making the planet a better place to live. He works as an activist, designer, writer, and teacher to create this change. He completed his PhD studies with a thesis on architecture and human rights. He also co-founded the Urban Design Studio, a design laboratory that reimagines human settlements as ethical, ecological, and equitable living habitats, and Academia, also an ethical, socio-ecological academia. Currently, he works as a senior lecturer in architecture at Coventry University, close to London. His most recent publications include Cities Without Capitalism and Urbanization as Taxidermy, Manhattanization of Manhattan. Well, as I told you, his seminar is titled De-Urbanization, Why and How. And de-urbanization is an alternative and radical solution for the challenges of our time. The idea and methodology, which combines diverse design disciplines with social and ecological sciences and indigenous knowledge. And in this seminar, Dr. SADRI aims to answer two main questions regarding the concept of de-urbanization. The first one is why we need to consider it as the main alternative. And the second one is how we can implement it. Well, I just wanted to talk as well. Dr. SADRI was also my teacher as well. Last year when I had the chance to participate in a certificate program, which is titled The Urban Design. So I had the chance to have a knowledge about this concept. And I believe that actually there are, I think, very few people who are studying and researching on this concept now all around the world. But I think in the following years, it will be really a critical and significant concept based on all the crises we are having on Earth, including pandemics, the climate change, and the overpopulation in cities. So for those of you who are interested in these issues, I think this seminar will make an utmost contribution. So I would like to once again thank to Dr. Hossein SADRI, and the floor is yours.
Yes, sorry, thank you very much for the introduction. Yes, we had the chance to collaborate with each other, and that was amazing, and I learned a lot from you as well. So thanks for helping me and my team, at the Urban Design Studio and Academia with sharing your knowledge and experience, and also comments, feedback. So it's a great honor to be with all of you today, and to be in Izmir again, and to be at Yaşar University again. So I was at Yaşar University, I think the last time 3 years ago, before pandemic's time, and it has a great atmosphere, great energy, and the majority of your lectures are, I think the best ones that I know. So in that term, I think that the students of Yashar University are very lucky. So this DesignFest is one of the basically fruits of this amazing energy and this amazing environment, having these students, the facilities, and also lectures all together in the amazing city and amazing environment, intellectual environment. So it is great to be part of it, at least for a while. Today I'm going to talk, I'm trying to keep it very short, and we can have the chance for some discussions at the end of the presentation. But basically, I'm going to talk about de-urbanization, why and how, and somehow explain exactly what de-urbanization is. And I started my presentation with this slide that is made by one of my earliest students at Green American University in Cyprus. And it's about the transition and a vision of transition for the future that will bring nature and humans and their relations somehow in a healthy condition and restore all these relations in the future. And from the existing condition of wars, fossil fuel, consumption and pollutions and loads of other things that is happening. And this is an imagination of how basically we can restore these problems and again build up a society that is in a harmony with nature, not only with nature, but also within the members of the society. So we won't have any more wars, any more problems of equality or justice or poverty or other problems similar to that. During the presentation, I will try to show you some of mine and also my colleagues and my students' works. So I started with one of my latest research that actually Burkayoja introduced this as taxidermy, urbanization as taxidermy, the article that I recently published, and is a result of my research at City College of New York that was based on the history of Manhattan and looking at different inhabitants of Manhattan and the way that they inhabit in the island, and the way that they build their shelters, the way that they interact with the natural environment in the island. And I started the research with the first inhabitants after the Ice Age that were beavers. And I realized that beavers, when they were building any structure, any dams in Manhattan, basically they were creating forests. So any tree that they were cutting were contributing to the future trees that they may grow in those lands. Just very briefly, if I explain how this was happening, I would say that they were building some dams, but dams, because were kind of filtering the water. So the water was passing, but the topsoil that was carried by water was filtered behind the dams. So during the time, in a few months, the topsoil and some other, sticks and some other natural components of water was accumulated behind the dam. And after a while, the dam was basically useless. So the beavers were leaving that area and were going to another part of the island and building a new dam. And that dam, because of lack of maintenance, after a while was broken. But when it was broken, it had already a great potential of rich soil that was carried by water from the top mountains in top, North New York state areas. And accordingly, the soil of Manhattan, by having these dams, was enriched, and a new forest with much stronger basically plants could grow in that area. So I realized that beavers were creators and generators of the forest. So the forest was the reason that beavers were there, the dam, the river, and beaver was the reason for the forest. So this relation that beavers were forest and forest was beaver, beaver was dam and dam was forest and dam was river, and all of these were strongly interconnected to each other, was something that I learned from beavers and their way of inhabitation. And then I looked at the first human occupants and inhabitants of Manhattan. They were called Lenape People, and Lenape People had a very strange and very interesting way of, building their villages or cities that for us today is quite, exciting and unbelievable. So each generation of Lenape people, they were building their own village. So any village that they were building was only for one generation. Lenape people were strongly hunter-gatherer people, but also they were farmers, and they were growing Three Sisters, as you all know. So they were partially agricultural and agrarian society as well. And these people, to create their settlements, they were choosing part of the forest in the island, and they were building some residence and some farmlands for themselves. That was for one generation, approximately 15 to 20 years. And they were living there, and then after 15 to 20 years, they were leaving that area for reforestation and regrowth of the wildlife, and they were building another one somewhere else. This was a big question for me, why these people were leaving their settlements and they're not maintaining it, they're not. And I did so much of research on this. And then after a while, I realized that the main reason for that was that their village is inside their mind. Their village is actually the skills that each Lenape people can build a house, can build a village, and know how to do that. And this is something that for thousands of years, Lenape people are doing it. And this is the way that they can achieve a sustainable and resilient life in the island of Manhattan or Manhattan. And their life is absolutely interconnected with the life of the island. So one of the reasons that they're leaving is just to let Manhattan to become what Manhattan wants to be. So they don't want to be dominant species of that island. They don't want to change the island to somewhere that only humans live, because in that condition, they will leave the opportunity of living there as well, because they will consume the land. They will make it somewhere that it is not originally what it is, and which is almost impossible. So they understand the continuity of nature, what nature wants to be, and they understand that they're temporal. They are, just for a while they're there, and the reason they are there is basically the richness of the land. Okay, so basically one reason was the regeneration of the island, so giving the island the opportunity to regenerate itself. But the second and more important part was the social reason, the cultural reason. If every generation of people wouldn't build a new village or a new city for themselves, then this knowledge of building city, this skill of building city would be lost. So the only way to do it was every generation of people could be involved in the process and could observe it, could learn from this process, from the scratch, from the selection of the place for living, till building it, maintaining it, and then the death of the place. So it was really amazing for me to understand that this continuity of, culture and learning skills, transferring skills to the other generations, multi-generational way of building was possible by letting the place to die, letting the structure to die. Because before this example, I was always thinking that to be able to create multi-generational building, we need to build a stronger building that they can last forever, for many generations. And this was an amazing structure, amazing example that was showing me exactly the opposite way, that the only way to be able to build multi-generational settlement is to build a mortal, degradable building and structure that can die after a certain period, and then each generation can learn from it and can do that. But more importantly, this interconnection between different generations, the interconnection between people and the forest, and the idea of, humans are just temporal residents. They're just here for a while. And what is more eternal is the forest, is the land, is Mannahatta, is the island. And this understanding of it and this interconnection is probably one of the other things that really was exciting in exploring these from the past. So when we look at, I tried to look at so many of poems of these Lenape people and indigenous or First Nation Americans, and this is one of the very famous ones, that's from First Native Americans that I think majority of you heard it. But what is essential in this is again underlining that how human and the planet Earth, the island, the Turtle Island as general, or small island as Mannahatta, how all of these are interconnected to each other. Because for Lenape people, or for any Native American, or any indigenous people, basically their body, themselves, are part of everything else. So there is no separation. This relation, interconnection, is what they observe it. One of the biggest interests of de-urban design is on time, other than space. But because it's a very long discussion, so I'm not going to enter to that. But even time for us as modern people is just linear, that we have past and future, and we have now that never happens actually. So because when we even realize then it is now, it is past already. So we are always living in a very separated, basically time based on this understanding. But for indigenous people, if you look at Aboriginal ones or First Nation people, time is extremely connected issue that is not linear, but it is imaginary. It is the past, future, and now it is at the same time, and it is circular. So at the same time, they can live with their ancestors. They understand this, that they live when their ancestors were living, and their ancestors live when they are living. And biologically, it is very easy to understand it, because just very recently I was reading an article about our microbiome inside our mouth, and the scientists were discussing that how this is very similar to the people of 100,000 years ago, and how this was very similar also to the chimpanzees ones. And they were arguing that diversity of microbes or bacteria inside our mouths is almost 1 million years old. So these bacteria that are me, because I am 57% bacteria and only 43% human. So these are from my ancestors, and we are living at the same time because they were living in my ancestors' mouth, and that is the only reason that they are in my mouth. But this is something that we are basically ignoring in our physical understanding of the time. But this interconnectedness, the world of interconnected beings is the main concept behind the urban design. And this is a image that just showing a very small, section of the interconnected world, in around one tree that, just a very simplified one that shows how everything is interconnected to each other. And if you remove one of them, basically this system doesn't work anymore. This happened in 4 billion years, so it is not something happened now. And this is one of the maps of these relations, very artistic way of explaining these relations, these connectedness. And then I continued my research about Manhattan by looking at the first building that colonizers built in Manhattan. That was really, really exciting because, the first colonizers were Dutch people, and Manhattan was called New Amsterdam. And this was the first building, was a fort, was a basically castle that was built. It was designed in Amsterdam, not in Manhattan. So the design was transferred. The materials didn't exist in Manhattan, so they transferred materials to that area. The people who built them, they came to Manhattan. They didn't, exist in that area. And the reason they built it was just against the people, the local people, against the wildlife in the area, against, so everything related to this building was just against Manhattan. So it was something outside of Manhattan that was, I usually use this term that kind of raping the land. And this is something that I really believe is the only word that can basically express my feeling about it. Because, it is just there to kill it. And even worse than killing it, it is just a torture for the area. So for that reason, even this first one that was happening there in that time, 17th century, was reflecting the way that urbanized idea, modern understanding of settlement is basically stabbing, cutting all the relations. This is one of the amazing slides that Gideon Kossoff created it when he's teaching about the ideas of transition design and social ecology, and is basically explaining that these webs that are cut during the colonization of societies, during the modernization of societies, urbanization of the societies, these basically created some holes in the relations. So those existing relations that were between people, among people, and between people and the nature, and between people and the climate, between people and everything, was disappeared because of colonization, because of this approach of raping the land, this approach of stabbing the culture, stabbing the nature. So these are cut. But what happened? Because these are cut, now places emerged there that can be filled by modern structures like governments, like media, like police, like judiciary, like corporations, companies. So when the relation between people, the real relation, the natural way of having these relations, are destroyed, then the potential happens that colonizers can occupy it. Because when these relations exist, then there is no need for any of these. And how beautifully this RedHawk, one of the chiefs of, First Nations, is expressing it. I have to read it. Before our white brothers came to civilize us, we had no jails. Therefore, we had no criminals. You can't have criminals without a jail. We had no locks or keys, and so we had no thieves. If a man was so poor that he had no horse, tipi, or blanket, someone gave him these things. We were too uncivilized to set much value on personal belongings. We wanted to have things only in order to give them away. We had no money, and therefore a man's worth couldn't be measured by it. We had no written law, no attorneys or politicians. Therefore, we couldn't cheat. We really were in a bad way before the white man came. And I don't know how we managed to get along without these basic things, which we are told are absolutely necessary to make a civilized society. Based on all of these, my understanding of urbanization or capitalism or the system we are living is wound in our body. It's an injury. If we look at history of humankind, 300,000 years, this is exactly the moment of time that we injured our culture, our knowledge, our understanding, our philosophy, our beliefs. But not only this, but we injured our planet. We injured many of the species. And this injury needs healing. This injury needs, to be cared and to be healed. And the aim of de-urbanization is just healing this injury. Very traditionally, in all my slides, I have chickens there, but today I'm just going to very shortly pass on it. These chickens inside these small cages are representing the way that we are living, the way that our animals are living, the way that our buildings are built, the way that our culture is growing, the way that our education is, established. Everything about us is summarized in this very simple photo. It is absolutely fossil fuel oriented industry. If you don't have fossil fuel, you cannot put these chickens here because you cannot provide them food that is coming from China or Brazil. If you don't have fossil fuel, you cannot build even these cages. This much of them. You cannot heat this area. You cannot create. So this fossil fuel oriented industry is one of the essential key points. But it is not that one only, but also this guy with the spray is another very important point in it, because he is the decision maker. He is the dominant species in the area that is deciding what to do, is deciding to kill them, is deciding to spray them, is deciding to give them food or not give them food. And this is exactly the way I am. I see a very strong similarity between myself and one of these chickens inside this cage. Because, I see the man that is feeding me, I see the man that is spraying me, vaccinating me, I'm seeing him that is giving me water to drink, I'm seeing him that letting me to go outside or not letting me to go outside, I am really, really, really feeling it in my life. And just passing them because I think I have lack of time. This is another research on chickens, basically, that I looked at. I mean, these are the standards of United States Departments of Agriculture about the size of cage and how we call the chickens. And the most luckiest guy is called pasture-raised chicken. We cannot find this kind of chickens to buy them in the regular supermarkets. We usually find kind of cage-free hens or free-range hens that are living maximum in this much of area. But this guy is the most luckiest one and is living in 10 square meter. And I just looked at the history, you know, thousands of years ago, when the original natural chickens were living in the forest, how much of area they were occupying. And I realized they were occupying 10,000 square meter. So 1,000 square meter, sorry, 1,000 times more than what the most luckiest chicken today is living. And I was questioning myself, what was the reason? And I understood that the reason is that 10,000 square meter is not only for that chicken, but is for a system that they are living together. Everything that is kind of represented in this slide, everything in that 10,000 square meter that have connections with each other and living together, includes loads of fungi, loads of microbic organisms, loads of plants, loads of other mammals, birds, insects, and loads of other things. So this interconnection is something that definitely we need to bring it back. How we can do it? We need to stitch back those wounds. We need to create again those relations. We need to find and restore it. But how? One of the key points that we learn from biology is this diagram. Again, because of lack of time, I'm not going to go to the detail of it. But basically, we have something that is called carrying capacity. Any ecosystem has a carrying capacity. And the number of communities or population living in that area grows up to that carrying capacity. And then the curve returns flat when it arrives to that level, and that's the stable equilibrium. So carrying capacity is important. Our planet has a carrying capacity as well. But are we living under the carrying capacity? The answer is definitely not, because in 2022, we are consuming 1.9 planet Earth, only as humans, only as humans. But we don't have 1.9 planet Earth, we have only one planet Earth. So what is happening? Basically, we are killing the planet and we are killing ourselves as well, because this is not sustainable, because we are not going to have forever 1.9 planet Earth. The only way that we can do that is because we have fossil fuels in millions of years, is accumulated, safe, protected, and we are digging down and getting them. And also we are polluting the future of our children and their children. And we are killing their future. And this is the only way that we can survive still, but this is not sustainable. So we need to change it. We need to return it to the carrying capacity. Based on this, urban design is proposing two very strong, very radical movement in strategies. The first one is we need definitely to reduce our consumption. Definitely, there is no other way. We need to reduce our consumption. We need to reduce it. The second one, we need to increase the capacity of the planet Earth. So how these two are possible? Very briefly, we can reduce the consumption if we move from individual life to more communal life. Any communal, resource, any more relations among people and among people, between people and the other living beings, is making it less, yeah, it's reduce our need to energy, it's reduce our need for anything else. We need to define some limits for ourselves instead of capabilities, because the modern culture is based on capabilities. So if we can dig 5,000 meter, if we are capable to do that, our technology is capable, we do it. If we are capable to build a bomb that can, boom all the planet, we build it. But instead of these capabilities that are the main scales of ethical measures and norms for doing something or not doing something, we need to shift towards having some ethical limits, defining these limits and understanding them. We need to share the poverty, because in the planet that we are living, and we are consuming 1.9 planet Earth, is still every 20 seconds, one child is dying from hunger. So we need to change it. There is no other way. And we need to change the way we use the resources. This is a very, very, long discussion, but basically we need to use resources that are usable, that are regenerative. Not all the resources that we cannot renew them, we cannot create them again. The second group of strategies are about increasing capacity. So these are, first one is basically flourishing life, bringing biodiversity to the areas that we are living, including cities, including our houses, including inside our bedrooms. There is an amazing research ongoing in, it's called Never Home Alone. It's a book published, and it's speaking about the biodiversity living inside our houses. I strongly recommend it. And the argument of these biologists is, as much as we are killing the species in our houses, we are killing our friends. We are killing the bacteria that we are more, adapted to live with them. And the other ones that we cannot kill and coming and living with us are fungi or bacteria that are strongly dangerous for us. So instead of this approach of killing, cutting, stabbing, raping, we need to bring a new approach of flourishing life. Why not our houses, even inside our bedrooms? Why not will be a space for flourishing life, different biodiversities, but the ones that in thousands of, hundreds of thousands of, and millions of years, we adapted to live with them, like the microbes inside my mouth. We need to do all of these in a regenerative way, not domesticating them, not putting them in the cage, not colonizing them, but building natural relations with them. We need to do it in an egalitarian way and in a distributed system, not in a centrally managed, colonized system. And we need to do it for a multi-generational and transitional way, method, and purpose. So very, very shortly, I wanted to discuss about regenerative way of doing it and its difference with basically the green and sustainable, but just pass very quickly that the urban design is based on this regenerative system of thinking, and that is basically different than green strategies, sustainable strategies, because green strategy means let's do less degenerative things. Like, less, instead of having fossil fuel, engine in my car, let's have electric car, which is less degenerative, less killing the planet. The sustainable ones are neutral. That is about having zero impact in our environment. But our environment is in a very bad condition. So being neutral, being zero is not something good. We need to be extraordinarily positive, because we already decreased everything and we need to build up. And for that reason, we need more restorative, reconciliatory, and regenerative strategies that are positive. And these are basically restoring ourselves, our ethical understanding, our soul, our relations with each other, and then our relations with the land, and also restoring the lands, but not in a way that, it is done now as an engineering of restoration of forests. No, because we really don't know the nature in the way that it is acting in a proper way. We have just this much of knowledge, so we are not capable to just go and engineer the nature. We need to let it to be free, and we need to free ourselves as well from all the stress that we have. An amazing architect, Elizabeth Farley, wrote a book. It's called Blubberland, The Dangers of Happiness. And is speaking about this load of happiness that we are carrying on our shoulders, because we have to be happy. We are doing so many things, we are working from morning till evening for whole of our life. And it's very dangerous. We need to just free ourselves from all of these. And this is the only way that we can rebuild our planet. And another amazing quote from amazing people of First Nations is about colonized America and today. If you white man had never come here, this country would still be like it was. It would be a pure here. It would be all pure here. You call it wild, but it wasn't really wild. It was free. Animals aren't wild. They're just free. And that's the way we were. You called us wild. You called us savage, but we were just free. This understanding of being free is something that I think we need to just fight for that. This is one of the ways that we understand as urban designers that what we are doing, is it right or not? This is something we call it ethicometer. This is a meter that we can look, is it ethical exactly what I'm doing or not? And this is about, we need to stop destroying. Definitely, this is high risk. Never, never, never ever to do it. If anything we are doing, any design we are doing is killing anything now or in future, is not acceptable. Domesticating is risky. Never to domesticate any land, never to domesticate any material, never to domesticate us, never to domesticate any. Taming is okay, question mark, but we need to go towards liberating, towards flourishing. And it definitely needs to be transitional and in a long time. So this is slides. I'm really mindful of time. This slide is about, where to start. And always it is just starting with vision, creating vision. Because, we have something in butterflies or caterpillars that's called imaginal cells. I really invite all of you to do a short research about these imaginal cells. These imaginal cells are just a few cells in caterpillar. Then all caterpillar dies, but these imaginal cells never die, but they use the transition of the caterpillar to be, towards the butterfly. So they reshape caterpillar as butterfly. And these imaginal cells, even though they are a few, they're very important, because imagination is important, because, this thinking about something that is really doable is really, possible, and is really a solution. It's not just waste of time. It's not just a fake, a fake, image of motivative, action for future, but it is something that really changes, really creates something important, is really important. Important is really important. So when people are asking me that if the urban design ideas are revolutionary or reformist, I always say definitely it is revolutionary, because there is nothing to reform, But with revolution, what I understand is a revolution that happens in 10,000 years. So this is not a revolution that happens in one night, but it's a revolution that happens in 10,000 years, similar to the agricultural revolution, similar to the industrial revolution. Didn't happen in one night. Took ages. That changed the way we live, the way we understand, the way we can observe, the way we can talk. So this new revolution needs also a very long period of time and contribution of loads of people. Final stage, I want to show just few slides about what we are doing, both in academic environment, as part of the urban design studio, or academia, or the other activities. So this is the most recent work. I'm involved. The urban design studio is involved, and also as our Coventry University architecture course in Master of Architecture course is involved. And this is about reimagining a future for a small square in Hillfields area in Coventry, which is one of the deprived areas of the city. And the way we are doing it is basically we are communicating with people. We are looking at the other beings as well in the area. But with the people, I mean, there are loads of refugees living here. Kids are here, elderly are here. There are people that are underrepresented, never presented or represented in any of the meetings. And we are communicating with them. We are working with them. And we are letting them to imagine the future for this square. And we are letting them to build it. This is an activist movement. We are in communication with different local authorities, with NGOs, and we are just fighting for these people to design it and to build it, what they want to build, and what will reestablish their relation with the land, and will reestablish their relation with the planet Earth from that small perspective, small area. Very differently, in a very larger scale, one of the projects I involved was planning Cyprus. So we designed all the island of Cyprus and the future of it, because we realized that what is happening always, what it is discussed, is just to the existing separation between the south and the north of Cyprus, and two majority ethnic groups in Cyprus. And what is ignored is all the minorities, all the minority cultures. Is about the future. 100,000 years ago, who cares about the existing two ethnicities living in Cyprus? So we brought a longer, vision about the longer and more kind of permanent understanding of the culture of living in the island, what happened in the island, what is the island, the ecosystem of the island, ecologies of island, and so loads of the other things in the island. Just another example from Cyprus was a very interesting project that, this was a poster of one of the candidates for mayorship in the village of Alsancak, Karavas in North Cyprus. And this guy won the election. And in the election campaign, he promised that one of the military lands that exist, he is going to negotiate it with military and turn it to this park, which had zoos and children playgrounds, and almost all the forest were covered by concrete and hard surfaces. And what we did, we became the sound of the trees, the sound of the land and insects and other things. And we basically, with all our students, we attended so many meetings with military, municipality, people in the village center, the other NGOs, and we just explained that forest is more important than playground. because forest is a playground. Forest and the ground of the forest is more important than any other place for people to go and walk. So people can walk in the ground of the forest and they don't need a concrete pavement to walk on it. So we somehow presented the trees, the forest land, the forest ground, and locally we could win. And we talked with the people, we talked to all, and we can somehow convince them that they build the forest park in a way that will not destroy all of these existing conditions. One another example, and yeah, it's from one of my one of the works of one of my master students in Coventry University, is basically again mapping the existing sociocultural and ecological problems in one area of the city. So, and finding all these relations and then simplifying it. And the problem here in this area of the city was crime. And then based on these mapping, we understood that if we create some kind of bottom-up strategies that starts with increasing biodiversity, we can reduce the crime. So we found, based on this mapping, we realized that, we can reduce crime by increasing the biodiversity. So we started looking at the biodiversity maps and, mapping the interrelation between the things living there, and then developing proposal accordingly, and then designing it in the detail, even in the facade system, in the, bricks, any details of the building, how we can increase the biodiversity. And this, by doing this in a transitional way, we can reduce the crime. An image about academia. Academia is one of our projects about de-urbanization, and I put this slide here. This is a screenshot from our YouTube channel. I invite you to watch these talks that the amazing people from all different countries, majority of them the most influential people in the fields of regenerative design, made in academia, and they are public and accessible. So I stop here.
So Hossein Hocam, thank you very much again for this wonderful presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to talk to your amazing students and colleagues. And I hope to see you very soon. Thank you very much.